Where'd you get your name there, Calgary? For our audience, I did run in the last Calgary election for mayor. What I found was the system was gerrymandered and rigged so that the mayoral candidates were not even allowed to get any press time or airtime. And as a result, I would not run again in municipal elections. It is too corrupt for my liking. And that sums it up. But in the last election, I did have the vision and foresight to say that we couldn't trust the U.S. in Canada, and that the city of Calgary should have taken municipal funds instead of financing a new stadium that billionaires would have built anyway out of their own pocket money. We should have built a oil refinery, carbon capture, hydrogen processing facility east of Calgary with municipal dollars and coordinate with the province and federal government to be equal partners to build it. This would have cost about $5 to $10 billion and would almost be ready for operation at this time. The issues would have been easy to deal with, the environmental issues and all that, because the area out east is very simple. But it also made economic sense that we cut ties with letting all the profits from Alberta go to the U.S. and foreign wealthy people. In today's current market, that would have seen us better positioned and a better use of taxpayer dollars than giving $2 billion to build a new stadium for billionaires and increase the seating capacity for the wealthy and luxury suites so that you get the nosebleed seats for a higher price to subsidize the luxury seats. And you're not getting any more concerts when they blow up the Saddle Dome. We can get into those in more detail later. What I wanted to cover was the municipal election with regards to the big drawing card right now is the, what do they call it? The logistics service hub, or let me get the proper name for it. The Prairie Economic Gateway Project, which is going to be a land development between Rocky View County and Calgary. And of course, this is what the mayor wants to use to get reelected. It sounds like an admirable project. The fast tracking of it is to be done by Mark Carney, because he said he wants to fast track key economic industry builders that are, so they don't get blocked by environmental concerns. This project should be streamlined. I agree it is a very economic project for the Calgary region, but not for the same reasons that the media is hyping it. The city of Calgary and Rocky View should not be donating land to the project. They should be selling land to the project, to these corporations, because CP is, I think, the rail hub organizer or going to be the benefactor of it, and CP is majority is owned by big wealthy people, and a lot of foreigners own it. So the profits from that will be leaving the country. We get the jobs, which will not keep up with inflation. But CN already has a logistics hub for Calgary, and now we're going to have a competitive hub with CP. I'm not sure how that's going to work, or the two rail companies are going to join together to create this inland terminal for moving goods around the country. This terminal would have been part of a project for the oil refinery complex, because we would have had to move all the finished oils and goods through rail and through pipeline to get to the international markets. And this is why it's actually a good thing to have it, because now it brings the viability of an oil refinery complex east of Calgary to the front light. I won't be running as mayor to initiate this project, but it doesn't mean that somebody in the province can't go ahead and do it. I doubt like hell they will, because big oil does not want it. Big oil wants the oil in Texas or in the US to refine and take the huge profits and keep them outside of the grass of Canada. Therefore, the project has to be a Crown corporation. And conservatives in Alberta say Crown corporations are a farce. They do not and cannot compete with private sector. Well, that's bullshit. All the best profitable Crown corporations were sold by conservatives. And what that did for you, well, let me explain it. When a corporation is operating as a government Crown corporation, you get higher wages when you work for them than in private sector. It's called spreading of the wealth. Then the profits from the Crown corporation, and most of them were very profitable, went to lowering your taxes and offering you more services that didn't come out of your pocket. But that's the Alberta way. They cater to the wealthy foreigners instead of backing themselves. Like the second major income generator to the province used to be a pipeline, which was Crown owned. And in 1979, Peter Lougheed sold it to private interest. And guess what? There was less money to go into the Heritage Trust Fund, and we've been suffering from lower oil prices because we do not generate the revenue from the pipeline industry anymore. And lo and behold, Alberta doesn't like the Crown Corporation that built a pipeline to coastal waters. So it's a vicious cycle of gaslighting by media and foreign interests. That's why I wouldn't run in the city politics, is because the media will not give you equal airtime. So they have their favorites, and usually the favorites are backed by the wealthy. So what I wanted to ask you, Cal, is your understandings of this new law in Alberta where municipalities now can form political parties to run to take over the whole operation of a city.
Well, I think the whole purpose is to freeze out individuals. You know, as an individual, you would have to join the party, and of course, the party would have a lineup of candidates. So if you join the party to try to get the party behind you, you'd probably find that, you know, you're 5 or 6 candidates behind wherever you're going to join. So you would have to go as an independent, which means that you're now up against a structure that has financial backing
and pockets. They have a
and
better
professionals.
advertising machine. They're spending money on advertising in the media, so the media is going to favor them, and they will have connections to the existing government of the province.
You'd also have an agenda. So you'd have to agree with the party's agenda in order to get the party's nomination, which means that, you know, there's a large, like, I don't know how many party members can you run a slate? Like
you can run a full slate. I think you can run 2 or 3 members in the same what do you call the ridings or council members? You could. Why couldn't you compete against one another in the same? For vote splitting. I don't know. I'm not too clear on it. It just smells of corruption, and it stinks like a skunk, and it is going to ruin the city. I mean, look at what's going on right now. All the money and tax dollars are going to favor the wealthy, from the Saddle Dome to giving money away to build houses. They're giving tax dollars to build and convert business buildings that would definitely be unprofitable and had to be sold unless a city gave them money, and gifting it is what the problem is. It's tax dollars being gifted to these people with no real expectations of profitability for the dollars, yet the business is going to profit off these tax dollars. So I have questions about that. And that leads to the negligence when you're only chasing the dollar. The city council and mayor were all involved in the negligence of the water pipeline. They knew, the reports show that there was deficiencies in that style of pipeline. It's in a low-lying area where the gravel bar shifts all the time because of high water marks. And that would cause problems with the pipeline, and the city failed to maintain them because they were busy chasing stadium deals and billionaires instead of looking after the interests of the people. And I find that that's probably going to be a bigger problem with this party concept where a whole party of people can run on the slate. And that is going to really hurt taxpayers' pocketbooks. Your taxes are going to go up, up, and away. And it doesn't do anything to help with the housing shortage in Calgary, which should be the municipality's priority. Aiding and abetting the housing industry to rip people off even more on taxpayer dollars is not a solution. It's not even a proper band-aid to the problem. You have to get to the roots of the problem to be able to cause an effective means of correction. That's not happening in Calgary or many other municipalities across Canada. You got some takes on this issue of housing?
Well, apparently these, look back to the parties, a UCP government changed the Municipal Affairs Act to, it came into effect October 31st, 2024, which allows slates to appear on the ballot in Calgary and Edmonton, but only Calgary and Edmonton, nowhere else in the province.
Oh,
The parties need
aware of that.
the parties need 1,000 signatures to officially register.
Yeah, well, that's nothing. They have a slate of 12 or 13 candidates. Might even be less than an individual has to get 100. So
Under the new rules, the parties can spend above and beyond what individual candidates can spend on campaigning.
exactly. So that's another bias. And then there was other things where third-party campaigners could spend millions of dollars propping up their favored party or their favorite candidate. And that happened in that last election. There was $1.2 million fund that swayed the election for Gondek because the last week leading up to election, they decided they were going with her and they threw the 1.2 million and all their influence at her to get elected. Now, I'm sure they regretted that after the fact, but she didn't do some of the stuff they thought she was going to do. Her history as a council member should have told them that. So it's going to cause a problem on the election front when you have third-party influences. And one of the things that people should realize is these third-party campaigners have deep pockets and don't have to account for their money to the election's equality for candidates. In Europe, the media cannot influence an election. They're banned from running documentaries or free promotions during prime time. They have to provide equal coverage to every candidate or they are fined and subject to penalties. And in Canada, they're encouraged to promote and select who they want and give prime TV coverage during supper time, news and everything to promote these candidates. And that segregates your choices, and it also shows that the wealth is going to select who you are going to even vote for, because whoever gets primetime news gets the best response at the voter ballot. That's got to change, folks, and I'm not going to participate in a rigged election, and to me this is a rigged election. You lose because people like me aren't going to bring new ideas or ways of operation. I may not be an ass kisser. I won't be kissing your ass or licking your boot. But I guarantee you the type of people that you're going to get in there will be that, because they're kissing the pocketbooks of the wealthy, and a puppet on a string always has to do what the puppet masters say. And that's the reality you're going to face in this type of election. And that means to you, the taxpayer, up go your bills, and your wages aren't probably going up to keep up with inflation, so enjoy.
So when you ran for mayor, how many candidates were there?
There was 27, and I came in 27th out of 27, which is pretty damn good, because I didn't have to lick any boots or kiss any asses. But it was during COVID, and I wasn't going to go door knocking, and I asked to be in the debate and was refused for participation in the debate. As a result, the city lost a revenue source that they'll never get. And not only that, they lost other revenue sources. I'm in the entertainment industry, and I see the entertainment industry failing in Alberta and failing in Calgary. So if you're going to brag about being a great tourism spot, maybe you should look at increasing your entertainment aspect. And if you believe that bullshit that blowing up the Saddle Dome is going to increase your concerts in the new stadium, you're full of crap, because it's not going to. The stadium here has the same number of concerts as the new stadium in Edmonton. You're not going to get any more in the new stadium than the Saddle Dome, but you will get more if you don't blow up the Saddle Dome, because the Saddle Dome is a great concert building. And the bullshit about the roof being unrepairable, bull crap. It's repairable, and on a $600 million building, if you had to spend $100 million to bring it up to snuff, no problem. The building's now worth $800 million, because it's just as good as the new stadium. So they didn't tell the people that. They gaslit them. Now they're going to blow up the building, but they did sell the land to the Calgary Stampede Association for $90 million, but the building is still worth $600 million. So you're losing, taxpayers. That's over $2 billion project, which sees no real gains except more luxury suites for the billionaires and millionaires. So you're not going to be affording those luxury suites for hockey games. So that's gaslighting, and that's the media backing the gaslighting, because these people that are profiting from your tax dollars, they spend millions and millions with the media outlets, and that's their bread and butter. So of course the media is going to favor giving their main contributors and promoters money. I don't know
So
what
anyways,
else to tell you.
you have three official parties running for positions in Calgary. A Better Calgary Party, ABC,
Right.
is Common Sense Conservatives. It's run by some guy named Greg Chandler, who was party president. Gord Elliott served on boards, both federal conservative parties, provincial UCP party, et cetera, et cetera. And
Deep
what's
connections.
interesting about them is they say that if there's a candidate that uh, is already an alderman and they feel that the alderman's doing a good job, then they will not run a person against that alderman if that alderman joins their party. So they have, so they're out there to scoop members that are already serving.
Well, I think that
Uh,
party also reached out to me and asked if I was going to run. I don't know if they feared that a person like me that would be running against any candidates, but they did reach out, and I said, I'm not interested. It's too corrupt. And I'm not going to, I ran and was not allowed to sit in debates where I can provide information and logistics to creating lowering taxes in Alberta and lowering taxes to Calgarians. No, now it's up go your taxes, because people like me are tired of being kicked in the head because we want to help you and you want to kick us in the head. No. Your taxes went up just like I said they would. Oh, and by the way, people of Calgary, I enjoy laughing at your price of gasoline in Calgary, because it's cheaper up by Edmonton, Red Deer, and you pay $2 to $4 billion more in gasoline to the headquarters of these oil and gas companies that are foreign owned in Calgary, and you see it at the pumps. And kudos to the Reserve for letting Costco set up their gas station there, because they don't have to contribute federal taxes to the roads leading to the gas station, and it is a lot cheaper gas there than in the city of Calgary. But thank you, Costco, and that's my take on what stupid is. If you allow yourself to be ripped off, you deserve your taxes to go up. Which goes back to, why were the water mains not maintained? Anybody would know to maintain and look at pipelines in a shifting gravel environment. And that's the main line for Calgary from that reservoir. So yeah, stupid is as stupid does. Now you got all the stupid coming with this, parties and third party campaigning and all this crap. Good luck, Calgary.
Well, the other party is, the second one of the three is the Calgary Party,
Yeah.
and it's launched by an employment lawyer, and they're going to make Calgary safer, more inclusive, more responsible to the needs of its residents. Stated priorities are housing, strengthening community policy, and getting Calgary moving again. Then there's
My contention is that they all do lip service to these cliches, but they do not have any written solid plan to deal with the underlying systemic problems that cause the shortage of housings and cause the shortage of healthcare and cause all the shortage of teachers wanting to work. They all talk the talk, but they don't do the walk.
Well, the third one's you can rant on this one too. The community's first party. Now, the community's first party is promising to replace the dysfunctional city council. They are actually 4 city councilors already, so they're obviously the party in power, if you will. Yeah. And if they haven't addressed those issues while they were in power, what makes anybody think that by being in a party now they're going to solve these issues? But they're promising higher densities through redevelopment that respects community character. So I guess you're going to go to a place like Bowness and put up a bunch of high rises, and it's going to just.
They do have a development down there where they're going to cram in. I think there's it looks like almost 2,000 units going to go in on an old school ground down there, and that's going to be real high density.
Yeah, they'll keep up with the character of the place.
Well, the water and sewer can't handle the facilities, so they got some issues there. But hey, they don't care. It's called vision. You have to have a vision. When I ran, I said, here's the vision. We're going to make Calgary, lower your taxes, have an oil refinery complex here, and say, the money's staying here in Canada, and to hell with you, the U.S. and foreign companies. We're going to keep the money here and lower taxes. That's called a vision. And now look what's happening. They're going, oh, we got to build pipelines. We got to do this. We got to do that. Well, looking in the rear view mirror, you could have been way ahead of the problems we got now. And we still should be doing the oil refinery. Now you're going to have to talk to my business, P&G Exploration Limited, which has been screwed over by corruption in Alberta and Saskatchewan. So why don't you look at that company to build your oil refinery complex? Oh, I'm not connected to the political structures that want to do it. Well, guess what? I'll work for it for a low percentage, and we'll do it as a crown corporation, and you can replace me if I can't do the job, and I guarantee you I can do that job. So you're just kissing your ass goodbye by losing money, and I enjoy watching fools. So when I volunteer to help out, you might want to pay attention. When I laugh at you that your taxes are going up and your jobs are disappearing, you can't afford a roof over your head, you deserve it. That's my take on it. I'm a real great politician. I don't kiss babies, and I tell you the facts of life now. Like it comes to the point of stupid. In Alberta, there's been 50 plus years of stupid. Ralph Klein said it best, I guess. The Eastern scums and bums go home. Well, we got dumped with a lot of that in the province, and they even voted for Ralph the Clown. So that tells you a lot. And what about these Ralph bucks? I mean, buying votes in the middle of an election, just give an Albertan $400 in the middle of an election. Well, that's not democracy, because that's against democracy, buying votes, but it's legal in Alberta. I'm waiting for Smith to drop money on the table. Maybe Gondek should offer a $200 check from the city coffers to every citizen of Calgary to vote for her. That would be a good one. But hey, I might have to edit some of this out. Okay. What else is happening to piss
Well, at
me
least
off?
some of Calgary's top bobsledders are in Calgary to train.
Well, there you go. That's good money. Federal funding. I'm sure they get money from the Liberals to spend in Alberta. And, I'm sure Smith should stop that funding for bobsledders. They shouldn't be here. So what else can we rant about? You know me too well, and starting to get my goat. What else was I going to talk about? I think we covered that the system is corrupt, and media should never be allowed to control our elections, especially foreign-owned media. And that's a problem in Canada. Everything's foreign-owned. Even for this hub, their foreign-owned company is going to be taking all the profits out and giving you low-income wages. I'm not sure there are going to be too many union jobs. Well, CP Rail has a union, I do believe, so you might get some better income out of the hub.
So Calgary already has two hubs. It's got the Calgary Logistics Park, which is CP,
Yeah.
and then it's got the CN container handling.
Yeah.
So there's two of them, and if you bring in this Prairie Economic Gateway,
There's three of them.
well, the issue that comes to my mind is you only really have two national railroads, and if they both have their own parks already, who are you going to get to service your park?
Well, it's a media hype issue. They want the existing hubs to be moved outside the city so that it is less congested in the city. So it's just a marketing hype to justify subsidizing the move for CP and CN, and then redirecting truck routes out there so that the delivery of goods is more efficient than running through the heart of the city. And that's all it's about. And that hype that they're building this great inland terminal, Calgary's already got all the inland terminal they need. It's just moving it to outside city limits to lose the revenue that the city makes off the lands in town, and hopefully they'll reuse the land for something else and increase the tax to the city. So I'd also like to know what tax concessions are being offered for this moving of the hubs out into the county of Rocky View.
Well, it's going to be a CP project apparently, and they're going to use existing CP rail networks.
Right.
Which makes sense because CN goes up through Edmonton and then through Jasper. It doesn't really go through Banff at all.
Yeah. So you know, there's still the issue of what's the tax concessions they're giving for that. Because obviously they're supporting it with your tax dollar. And they're notorious for getting as little return to you as possible on their business dealings. These people are not true negotiators for business and your interests as a taxpayer, unfortunately, and you're selecting these people to represent your best interests, and their track records speak volumes of how you're going to lose. I don't know what else to say about that, but the hub's a good idea to move it out of the city. That'll make it less congested. It's just the terms and conditions and how much it's costing you, the taxpayer, when the private business should pay for it out of their own pocket, and it should be profitable for the city of Calgary and the Rocky View County to have it done. That's all I got to say on that topic.
Yeah, looking at the map, it's going to be in the far southeast corner of Calgary, with ports to Eastern Canada, U.S. and Mexico is how they're selling it.
Yeah.
But again, they're not showing taking the track out of Calgary. They're showing using the existing Calgary track, but they'll be moving the hub out of Calgary,
well,
I
they
guess.
need to remove some of these tracks within the city as well. They are a nuisance and they are a noise problem, and they're getting old. But that's without sitting on the city council and having inside long-term plan knowledge. I can only say that moving a hub outside the city limits is nice if you redirect all the train lines and truck routes. I hope they have the vision to plan that into their forecasting. I doubt it, but hey, they'll do what they do. So that's where I'm at there. They're building the basic infrastructure for my oil refinery complex by building that hub. That's nice. So come talk to me about that, government, Alberta. Well, they won't because they're conservative. So I guess it's up to the federal government to come talk to me to do a crown corporation out here in Alberta and solve their problems, and making pipelines to ship cleaner products would be ideal. See, one of the problems that you don't even hear about is these pipelines that are supposed to be fast-tracked. No foreign companies want to build them because it cuts into the profits from their main offices in Texas where the oil goes to now. If they redirect it, they lose money on their profitable operations to make less in Canada. So it has to be a crown corporation building the pipeline. And if you're going to build pipelines, you're better to send refined product through the pipelines versus bitumen, which is full of abrasive salt or abrasive grains of sand and particulates that wear the inside of the pipes out over time. You're better off to have cleaned that in Alberta and ship finished products like diesel and fuel through these pipelines. And that makes more profit in Alberta and more profit across the country. Well, that's my take on it. Crown corporations, folks, those are the solutions to all your problems in Western Canada and Canada. Look at Norway and live with that fact. That's how they did it. What else? The city has a problem with drugs and congested people downtown. I don't know how they're going to deal with that. But,
I think every city does.
well, there's, a systemic problem, and maybe want to get to the root of the problems and make social programs a priority, and maybe, use the Portugal model for dealing with drug issues. Just saying, it works there. It probably work very efficiently here, but I think the religious fanatics here don't want to allow it to happen. So
What's that model you're talking about?
The Portugal model.
Yeah, I've never heard of that one.
Yeah, Portugal legalized drugs so you can get them, and then they made facilities available for rehab, and they make it so it's not a crime to be um,
Sick.
sick. Yeah, it's a mental health issue, and they treat it, and they've been very successful with it. And Canada should model on that, and there is even room on that model for perfection. You can improve that. Instead, they use old models that just perpetuate the problems and make it a circle event so that they got jobs and charities have a reason to exist, and instead of trying to solve the problems. And you don't want the drug dealers to lose out on money by making drugs legal through the drugstores, and that's one of the issues too. So, you know, lobbyists are making sure that crime is well fed. Well, hey, that's the fact.
Yeah. Well, it's an interesting way to look at it.
Well, money talks. You follow the money, you find the root of the problem, and that's always going to be in a capitalist society, and capitalism is ripping off the middle class and poor to make only the poor, so that the wealthy tell you what you get for services, what you get for health care, what you get for this, and they're directing it, making it sound like you actually had a voice when you're being silenced by the media, and the election is not unrigged. So there you go. Who wants to
Well,
form a new party? Because I'll build you one that will get around these problems.
and another issue with the last election as well is when they had a candidates debate, how many candidates did they invite?
They only selected the ones they wanted, so that's the way it is, right? You only select who you want to be in the debates, and they didn't want me because guess what? I just shut you down pretty quick on your bullshit, gaslighting.
What was the selection process though?
Whoever kissed their asses or spent the most money on the advertising on TV, that's it. It wasn't, they said, oh, we can only handle 5. Bullshit. You ever heard of, you know, we could have all done it via the internet, Zoom. We could have done a Zoom debate and everybody given equal time. So don't tell me you weren't censoring us out. Modern technology, even an old fart like me knows how to do that.
Well,
So,
they could have had 5 debates.
I had 5 debates and could have done it all Zoom, so we didn't even have
Yeah,
to go because of COVID.
you
No,
do
that's how
five at a,
stupid it is.
you do 5 at a time, and everybody gets a debate.
Yeah, so it's called censorship, folks, and I'm not being censored anymore. That's why I got the podcast. I like telling you my thoughts and my ideas, and guess what? Even Cal can't shut me up sometimes. And I can back it up because I am working on a very comprehensive book to help you people build true democracy. And if I ever get that book done, you'll be the first to know about it. And hopefully I get it done this winter. While it's 40 below and I got nothing to do, I will finish writing it. And my literacy rate is pretty low in comparison to Einstein. So you'll have to bear with the fact that I'm going to use AI to help me build it. I've just learned how to use GPT, and what a pain in the ass that is. But I bet you I could really make some good posters for campaigning. Relying on my own limited skills sure made me look like a donkey in the last race. But, you know, I think talk is cheap, and I do by my actions. And when I say I can do something, I'm pretty sure I can. I well researched it and I know what I'm going to be doing. So there's the difference. Talk is cheap. takes money to buy whiskey, and I don't have the money to buy the whiskey for you, so I'm not getting elected in. There you go. Money buys the world, and you get the bill. Because you're the taxpayer, you're getting the bill. So can I ride my donkey into the sunset now and call it a wrap? We can talk about city politics again. I mean, I don't mind talking about it, but it's, there's lots of issues. Like we got
Interesting.
fluoride back in the water.
Oh, good.
Because parents don't want to teach their kids not to eat sugar and brush their teeth properly after with fluoride in the toothpaste. So, you know, and of course, you know, that's in opposition to a lot of these dental care people. I say, you know, take a little onus on your own actions, and we don't need to be poisoned by fluoride in the water. And there's a lot of toxic components into adding fluoride into the water, and you wonder why you got cancer rates. Well, it doesn't affect everybody, but it can facilitate if you're so prone genetically to, you know, have fluoride interfere with your chemical reactions in your body. So it's not a good idea, folks. Europe bans it in many places for a good reason. Fluoride is pretty reactive. And, you know, I'd like to touch on that one a little more, because I don't even like drinking the water now with fluoride's back in it.
You and JFK.
There you go, but I don't have brain worms.
Yet.
Yeah.
Maybe it's the fluoride.
Yeah, maybe it's the fluoride. No, it just is a chemical reaction component. It's not a good idea, and it's not necessary. If adults would teach their kids that processed sugars are not part of your main diet, and you have to brush your teeth 3 times a day and floss, and you have to use fluoride in your toothpaste, you know, you would have been better off to spend the 20-30 million a year you spend on fluoridating the water into giving low-income families vibrating toothbrushes so that they can enjoy brushing their teeth and get the job done effectively. And that would have been a better solution and cut down the health issues related to rotting teeth and saved healthcare dollars in the process. But instead we have to be poisoned by fluoride in the water. Not cool, folks. Pay attention to science. And not all scientists agree, so you have to provide studies, and the studies support what I'm saying, so there you go. But we got fluoride in the water, so drink up. Drink lots of it. Drink your 8 cups a day that you need to stay hydrated.
Get a water purifier.
That's what you need, and that's the secondary industry of it, is you purify the water after you spent all the tax dollars, and now I got to pay for a purifier to purify the water I drink. Now, how good is that? The only thing is the poor people can't afford the purifier, so they drink the fluoride, which was the poor people that couldn't afford to get toothbrushes to brush the kids' teeth and make sure they had fluoride in the toothpaste. So, I guess, vicious cycle. Got to put a Band-Aid on it.
See you
Make more
later.
money for somebody.
See you later, Corey.
Yep. And we'll have to discuss this another time. Okay, bye.
Bye.
Subscribe to the channel, give us a like, and please share the video. Don't be afraid to share this commercial with your friends too.